Let me guess. You've been feeling invisible lately. Like no matter how much good you do, it goes unnoticed. You watch people rise, succeed, get chosen, while you stay quiet, forgotten, left behind. You're not lazy. You're not ungrateful. You're just tired of wondering why your moment hasn't come yet. But what if I told you? You were never forgotten. You were hidden by Allah on purpose for something bigger than you've ever imagined. Because sometimes the strongest souls are the ones He keeps in the shadows the longest. 1. You keep feeling like you're not enough. But what if Allah is protecting you from settling for less? You scroll through your feed and it feels like everyone has it all figured out. They look confident, they're smiling, their life looks full, loved, celebrated, seen. And you? You sit there wondering why you still feel so incomplete, why you question yourself over and over again, why you look in the mirror and feel like something's missing. It hurts. And the worst part, you can't explain it to anyone. But here's something your heart needs to hear. Maybe Allah is the one who placed that discomfort inside you, not to hurt you, but to protect you from something far worse. Because if you felt enough in the wrong place, you might have stayed there. You might have accepted a job that would have destroyed your peace. You might have married someone who would have drained your soul. You might have built a life that looked beautiful on the outside, but left you empty on the inside. So what did Allah do? He let you feel the sting of not enough. He let you feel disconnected, different, lost, because He didn't want you to attach to what was never meant for you. He wanted you to grow, not sideways, not backward, but upward. And that kind of growth, it takes silence. It takes loneliness. It takes feeling like the world forgot you, while Allah was quietly building you. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're just being reshaped for something that won't break your heart when you finally receive it. So if you've ever whispered to yourself, "I'm not enough," try this instead. I'm still becoming the version of me that won't settle for less than what Allah wrote. Because when you finally step into that chapter, you'll look back at this pain and say, "Ya Allah, thank you for not letting me accept less than what I'm truly worth." 2. Every time you heal, something else breaks. But what if that's how Allah is awakening the strongest you? You finally start to feel okay. You breathe a little, smile a little, sleep a little deeper. And then, out of nowhere, something else breaks. Another disappointment, another test, another moment where your heart sinks all over again. And you just sit there thinking, why can't I catch a break? Why does healing feel so temporary, so fragile? You feel like life is this cycle of fixing one thing, only to watch something else fall apart. And honestly, it gets exhausting. But what if I told you this constant breaking isn't a sign that you're failing? What if it's the opposite? What if every crack in your heart is really a doorway to a new kind of strength Allah wants you to discover? Because there are some strengths you'll never access until something inside you gets shattered first. Maybe Allah is awakening a version of you that's more patient than you've ever been, more grateful than you've ever felt, more connected to Him than you've ever imagined. You weren't created for comfort. You were created for growth. And real growth isn't soft. It's silent, it's slow, and it almost always feels like breaking at first. The truth is, you don't become stronger by getting what you want. You become stronger by surviving what you never asked for. And right now, that strength is being born inside you. Not the kind of strength people see, but the kind only Allah sees. The kind that builds in your du'as, in your private tears, in your quiet patience, in the way you still say Alhamdulillah even when your heart feels heavy. You're not just healing, you're evolving. And yes, healing might not look like a straight line. It might look like starting over 100 times. It might feel like you're breaking more than you're building. But with every piece that falls apart, Allah is placing something eternal in its place. So keep walking, even if your steps are slow, even if your hands are trembling, because one day you'll look back and realize those breakdowns weren't setbacks. They were sacred awakenings, and you didn't just survive them. You became someone unshakable because of them. 3, you keep being misunderstood, because your light is meant to shine quietly, not loudly. You try your best to be kind, to speak from the heart, to stay away from drama, to bring peace wherever you go. But somehow, people still misunderstand you. They misread your silence. They twist your intentions. They label you things that have nothing to do with who you really are. And after a while, it starts to hurt. Not because you want to be praised, but because it's painful to be misunderstood when your heart was always clean. You ask yourself, why do they always get me wrong? Why do people assume the worst about me, even when I stay silent? But maybe this pain isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. Maybe it's proof that your soul is too rare to be recognized by most. Some hearts are so soft, so pure, so sincere, that this noisy world simply can't process them. You weren't made to be loud. You weren't made to perform. You weren't made to explain yourself 100 times just to be accepted. You were made to shine quietly, to love deeply, to walk humbly, and sometimes your light will only be noticed by the ones whose eyes aren't clouded by ego or jealousy or judgment. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was called a liar before he was called a prophet. Yusuf, alayhi as-salam, was accused before he was honored. Maryam, alayhi as-salam, was slandered before she was praised. The world misunderstood every soul that was chosen by Allah. So what makes you think you'll be treated differently? If your heart feels lonely, it doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It might mean you're exactly where Allah wants you to be. He's teaching you to stop needing applause, to stop explaining yourself, to stop begging for people to get you, because the one who created your heart already understands it better than anyone else ever could. And when Allah understands you, it doesn't matter who doesn't. So don't dim your light just because others can't handle it. Don't silence your sincerity just because it makes others uncomfortable. You weren't sent here to be understood by everyone. You were sent to live your truth and let Allah handle the rest. One day, the same people who misunderstood you will look at how far you've come and realize, we never really knew who they were, but Allah did. And that will be more than enough. 4. You're still in the same place for years. But what if that's where Allah hid your greatest test and your greatest reward? You've been in the same place for what feels like forever. Same home, same job, same routine, same pain. While others are moving, growing, relocating, marrying, achieving, you're still here, still waiting, still wondering, why does nothing ever change for me? Why do I feel stuck no matter how hard I try to move forward? And it starts to sink in, that heavy feeling, like life skipped over you, like Allah isn't listening, like maybe you're not chosen after all. But here's what you don't see yet. Maybe this place, this ordinary, invisible, difficult place you've been planted in, is actually sacred, because some of the biggest transformations in your soul don't happen in new cities or new jobs or new marriages. They happen when nothing around you changes, but everything inside you does. What if this delay is not a punishment, but a test that's so important Allah won't let you leave until you pass it? What if there's something inside you that can only be healed here, in the silence, in the sameness, in the waiting? You see, your environment may feel small, but your patience inside it is growing something massive, something eternal. Some people travel the world and still feel lost, but you might be standing in one place for years and still be traveling closer and closer to Allah. Because it's not about changing locations, it's about letting Allah change you. Maybe your reward is not somewhere else, maybe it's right here, but you'll only see it once your heart passes the test Allah hid beneath the surface. Sometimes He hides the treasure in the most uncomfortable places. He hides the answer where the pain is. He hides the turning point inside the waiting. You're not stuck. You're being anchored, so when the winds come, you don't break. And one day, when your heart is ready, Allah will move you in a way that's effortless. Doors will open so easily, you'll cry from shock. But until that day comes, remember this: just because your feet haven't moved doesn't mean your soul hasn't grown wings. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are exactly where Allah needs you to be, for your soul to rise. 5. You're tired of starting over. But what if Allah keeps resetting your life to remove what's not meant for the end? You build something, piece by piece, hope by hope, dua by dua. And just when it starts to feel safe, when you finally let yourself breathe, it all comes crashing down. Again, the plan falls apart, the job slips away, the relationship ends. The dream you were so close to disappears overnight. And in the silence that follows, your heart whispers, Ya Allah, how many times do I have to start over? It feels unfair, heavy, endless. You're tired of new beginnings. You just want something to stay. You just want something to work. But what if Allah isn't being cruel? What if He's being careful? What if the reason your life keeps resetting isn't because you're doing something wrong, but because He's protecting your final chapter? You see, Allah sees the end, the moment your soul returns to Him, clean and whole. And sometimes, the people you love now can't walk with you all the way there. Sometimes the habits you cling to now will poison the blessings He wants to give you later. So what does He do? He resets your life. He removes what would have ruined you, even if you loved it, even if you begged to keep it. Because Allah doesn't just want you to be happy right now, He wants you to be safe forever. That's why it ends suddenly. That's why it falls apart after so much effort. That's why you're left wondering why it slipped through your fingers, when all you wanted to do was hold on. But holding on to the wrong thing is sometimes more dangerous than having nothing at all. And maybe you were so close to settling for a version of your life that would have stolen your purpose. So Allah did what only He could do. He took it from you, so He could give you something that wouldn't leave you later. Every reset you've faced wasn't a rejection of your dua. It was a redirection to your real destiny. So even if your heart is tired, even if your hands are trembling from starting over again, know this: each time Allah resets your path, He's making sure that what's at the end of it is something that will never break your heart again. Something permanent, something pure, something that waits for no one but you. Keep rebuilding, and this time, don't rush the process. Trust the one who already wrote the ending. 6. Your kindness feels like a curse. But what if Allah is letting it hurt so it can turn into power? You're kind. You give when it's inconvenient. You forgive when it still hurts. You stay silent to protect someone else's dignity, even when they never protected yours. And deep down, you wonder if your kindness is a curse. Because every time you choose gentleness, someone takes advantage. Every time you try to help, someone uses you and leaves. And every time you finally say, maybe they'll appreciate it this time, they don't. You start to ask yourself, why do I always end up the one hurt? Why do the people with the softest hearts bleed the most? But maybe this pain you're feeling isn't a punishment. Maybe it's a process. What if Allah is allowing your kindness to hurt, so it can become strength, not weakness? Not the kind of strength that hardens you, but the kind that teaches you how to give without breaking. Because pure hearts don't become powerful by being untouched. They become powerful by learning to stand, even after they've been broken for the 100th time. Allah sees what no one else sees. How you lower your voice when you're angry. How you swallow your pain to protect others. How you cry alone so no one feels guilty for what they did. And He's not ignoring it. He's using it to shape something unshakable in you. You're not weak for being soft. You're not foolish for forgiving. You're just being trained to love the way He loves, with wisdom, with boundaries, with beauty. One day you'll give again, but your giving will be grounded. One day you'll help again, but your heart will be armored by experience. One day you'll still be kind, but no one will be able to destroy you for it, because what hurt you now is the very thing that will protect you later. This isn't the end of your kindness. This is the evolution of it. So if you're kind and it feels like a curse right now, just remember, Allah isn't trying to take that purity from you. He's just trying to teach you how to carry it without letting it carry your pain. 7. Your dreams keep fading. But what if Allah is deleting your plan to write a story with no regrets? You had a vision, a dream that made you feel alive. Something you prayed for every night, imagined every morning, held on to every time life felt dull, and now it's fading, falling apart, or maybe already gone. You did everything right. You made dua, you worked hard, you waited. And still, it slipped away like it was never meant for you. And that's the pain no one talks about. When the dream doesn't just die, it dies slowly, quietly, without warning, without reason. You wonder, why would Allah give me the desire and then not give me the outcome? But maybe He did answer, just not in the way you expected. Maybe He took away the dream to protect you from the version of yourself that would have come with it. Because not every goal brings joy. Not every success brings peace. Not every yes would have left you whole. Sometimes Allah lets the dream fade, so He can write you a life with no regrets. You think you lost time, but maybe you just lost the illusion of a future that was never good for you. You think you failed, but maybe you just outgrew something your soul was never meant to carry. And yes, it's painful to let go. Painful to release something you once believed in with all your heart. But what's even more painful is holding on to a dream that was never written for you in the first place. So Allah removes it, not because you're not worthy, but because you're worthy of something greater, something that won't demand you to shrink, to settle, to suffer. You see the dream dying, but Allah sees your story unfolding. And He's writing it in a way where you'll look back one day and say, I thought I lost everything, but this life Allah gave me instead was everything I didn't even know I needed. So no, your dream didn't die. It transformed. From something you wanted into something you'll one day be grateful you didn't get, because the plan you made was based on what you knew. But the life Allah is writing for you, that's based on what only He knows, and He knows the version of you that will have no regrets. 8. You've been too quiet for too long, but what if Allah saved your voice for the moment it would actually matter? You've stayed quiet for so long. You swallowed your opinions. You held back your emotions. You kept your pain tucked away inside your chest because no one really asked how you were. And even if they did, you didn't think they'd understand. And now that silence has become part of you. It's not that you don't have anything to say. It's that you've learned to protect your voice, because every time you used it before, it got ignored, or worse, twisted. So you stopped speaking, you stopped sharing, you stopped expecting to be heard. But what if I told you this silence was never a sign that you were unimportant? What if your voice has been preserved by Allah for something greater? Because your voice is powerful, not in volume, but in truth. And truth, when it's spoken at the wrong time to the wrong people, can be wasted or even weaponized. So Allah protected it. He hid it, not to silence you forever, but to prepare the world for the moment when your voice will finally be heard and felt. That moment might not be loud. It might not go viral. It might not even come with applause, but it will be divinely timed. Because when Allah decides it's your moment to speak, you won't need to raise your voice. You won't need to explain yourself 100 times. You'll say one sentence, and hearts will shift. Souls will soften. Doors will open. Your voice will carry weight, because it was carried through silence, pain, and patience. You see, sometimes the ones who are quiet for the longest are the ones who end up changing the most and helping others do the same. So if you feel like you've been forgotten, if your voice feels locked inside your own heart, remember, Allah never wastes your silence. He uses it to sharpen your message, to clean your heart, to build your sincerity. Because when your moment comes, it won't just be you speaking. It will be Allah placing the right words on your tongue at the exact moment they were meant to be heard. And that's not just a voice, that's purpose. So wait, not with frustration, but with faith. Because silence is not your weakness. It's the sacred space where Allah prepares your voice. For the moment, it will finally matter. And when that moment arrives, it will shake the hearts it was meant for. So, if you've been hidden, if you've been delayed, if you feel like life passed you by, remember, Allah doesn't hide what's worthless. He hides what's precious. He hides what He's still preparing. And one day, when you least expect it, He'll bring you out of the shadows, not to be seen by the world, but to finally step into what was always yours. Until then, stay patient, stay sincere, stay close to Him. Because what's coming will make you thank Him for every time you were overlooked. If this touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who feels forgotten. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because your soul deserves reminders like this. Your time is coming. And when it does, it will feel like you never missed a thing. Just wait on Allah. You didn't click this by accident. This video found you. Because when Allah wants to reach a person, He doesn't need a phone. He moves the universe. He delays your sleep. He places the right words in front of you. He pulls your heart softly. What if the pain you're hiding, the confusion you're drowning in, the quiet ache in your soul, is not just something you're going through, but something Allah is trying to talk to you through? Stay with me. These are not just signs, these are conversations. And one of them might be the very answer you've been crying for. 1. You start feeling tired around certain people, even when nothing happens. You walk into the room, you smile, you nod, you talk like everything is normal. But when you leave, you feel exhausted. Not physically, emotionally, spiritually. Nothing bad was said. No one disrespected you. But something inside you feels off. It's not anxiety. It's not just overthinking. That's your fitrah, the natural compass Allah placed inside every soul. It knows when a place no longer serves your peace. It knows when a heart beside you carries quiet jealousy. And sometimes, it knows before you do. You keep questioning yourself. Why do I feel this way? They didn't even do anything. But that's the point. The harm doesn't always come through words. Sometimes it comes through silent energy, through eyes that smile but don't mean it, through conversations that feel safe but slowly drain your knower. That uneasiness is not weakness. That feeling is a signal. Allah gives it to you so you don't walk blind into spiritual traps. And if you ignore it for too long, you'll start to feel smaller, less confident, less connected, less you. Not because you're broken, but because you're surrounded by people who can't breathe the air you were meant to rise in. Don't silence that feeling. Don't bury it under excuses. It's not your job to stay where your soul is shrinking, because when Allah pulls your peace from a space, He's not being cruel. He's showing you, you don't belong here anymore. I have better for you. Let go with grace and rise, because your next chapter doesn't need their permission, just your obedience to the one who never misguides a heart that listens. 2. You keep losing things. You thought you couldn't live without, but you're still breathing. You thought it would break you. That relationship, that opportunity, that version of your life you planned down to every detail. You held on to it with everything you had, with love, with patience, with dua. But somehow, it still slipped through your hands. And when it did, you didn't just lose a person, or a job, or a dream. You lost a part of yourself. You lost the future you imagined. You lost the identity you built around it. It felt like the world stopped. You walked into rooms full of people, but felt completely alone. You smiled in photos, but your heart was hollow. You listened to Qur'an and still wondered, why me? Your soul ached with a pain no one else could see. You kept replaying the past in your mind. What if I had done this differently? Why didn't I see the signs earlier? Why would Allah give it to me, just to take it away? But here's the truth no one tells you in the beginning. Allah doesn't take from you to hurt you. He takes from you to wake you up. Because sometimes we make something else our peace. We start worshipping the gift and slowly forget the giver. And so He takes, gently or suddenly, loudly or silently. He doesn't always explain it in the moment, but He always replaces it with something better if you remain patient. You see, the pain wasn't a punishment. It was a shift, a divine shift, from depending on something temporary to holding on to something eternal, from finding your worth in people to finding it in your connection with the one who never leaves. And even though it still stings, you're still breathing. The sun still rises, your heart still beats. And somewhere between the heartbreak and the healing, you started finding pieces of yourself again. That's not survival. That's spiritual transformation. Proof that what you lost was never what was keeping you alive. Allah was. Allah is. He saw what you couldn't see. Maybe that relationship would have pulled you away from Him. Maybe that job would have made you arrogant. Maybe that version of your future would have buried your soul in distraction. He saw the cracks in your plans before they became disasters. So he removed it, not to leave you empty, but to give you space to become full. Full of strength, full of reliance, full of sincerity, and if you're honest, maybe that loss pushed you closer to Allah in a way ease never could. Maybe it humbled you. Maybe it taught you sabr. Maybe it showed you what fake love looks like. So you can recognize something real when it comes. And what's coming will not leave you guessing. It will not confuse your heart. It will not pull you away from your faith. It will not make you beg to be seen. It will come with peace. It will come with purpose. It will feel like Allah finally said, "Now you're ready." So don't rush to fill the space left by loss. Let Allah rebuild you first. Let Him write a story so much bigger than the one you thought you needed. Because this time, it won't break. Because this time, you won't have to force it. Because this time, it will be from Him. And anything from Allah is always worth the wait. Even if it comes after everything you thought you couldn't survive. 3. Your life slows down right before a major breakthrough. You used to be so full of drive, so sure of your purpose. You had plans, big ones. You were finally starting to feel like things were working. And then suddenly, everything just slowed down. The job you applied for, no response. The project you started, stuck in limbo. Your motivation, vanished. Even your du'as started to feel quieter. You began to wonder, what's happening to me? Why is everything slowing down when I was finally moving forward? It's in this silence where Shaitan whispers the loudest. He wants you to believe you've been abandoned. He wants you to think Allah has paused your life out of anger or disappointment. But that's a lie, because Allah never stops a believer's journey. He just reroutes it. You don't realize it now, but this stillness, it's divine strategy. Before Allah elevates someone, He humbles them. Before He gives you more, He clears what doesn't belong. Before He trusts you with a new blessing, He ensures your heart can handle it, because you can't carry new doors with old hands. This slow season is where Allah heals your unseen wounds. It's where He teaches you patience that success never could. It's where you're forced to stop leaning on results and start leaning on Him. And that's the secret. Sometimes Allah withholds movement in your life, so you can stop running after outcomes and start running back to Him. You're not stuck. You're being protected from premature success. Because success that arrives before you're ready is actually a test, not a gift. Allah is not delaying you because He doesn't want to bless you. He's delaying you because your heart deserves better than rushed blessings. Imagine receiving everything you ever prayed for, but without the strength to hold on to it, without the wisdom to use it, without the patience to maintain it. That's why He slows you down. You think you're being left behind, but you're actually being pulled aside for refinement. Like gold that must go through fire before it shines, like arrows that must be pulled back before they're launched forward. This is not the end of your journey. This is the quiet before the transformation. So when everything feels paused, know that the author of your story is turning the page. He's preparing a plot twist you didn't see coming, but it's going to make the wait make sense. You are not late. You are being timed by the one who knows exactly when your soul is ready. So rest in the pause, pray in the pause, grow in the pause, because soon the silence will break, and your life will begin to speak louder than ever before. And when it does, you'll thank Allah for every delay that protected your destiny. 4. You suddenly feel uncomfortable with the sin you used to ignore. It used to feel normal, The sin wasn't hidden, it was a habit. You didn't even pause. You didn't feel anything after. You convinced yourself everyone does it. Or worse. At least I'm not as bad as them. But then, something shifted. You can't even explain when it started. Now, you hesitate. You're about to open that same app, type that same message, listen to that same thing. But it doesn't feel the same anymore. Your chest feels tight. Your hand slows down. Your heart starts whispering, "Why are you still doing this when you know it hurts you?" And you feel confused. Because this isn't how it used to be. You didn't care before. Now even the thought of it makes you feel dirty, ashamed, tired. That right there is one of the most powerful signs that Allah hasn't given up on you. Because if He did, you wouldn't feel anything. When a sin starts to taste bitter, it's not because the sin changed, it's because you changed. Allah is purifying your heart. He's unclogging it from the stains you used to ignore. He's making it sensitive again, alive again, human again. And the people around you might still say, "Relax, it's not a big deal." But they don't know what's happening in your soul. They can't hear what your conscience hears now. That discomfort you feel is sacred. It's your fitra resurfacing. It's the Noor inside you pushing back against the darkness. It's Allah telling you, "I've chosen you for something cleaner, something higher." You may still fall, you may still slip. But falling with guilt is not the same as falling with arrogance. And every time you walk away, even if your legs are shaking, you win. Because fighting a sin that once felt easy is a spiritual victory no one sees. Angels record that fight. Allah sees that war, and He never leaves the heart that is still trying. You're not fake. You're not a hypocrite. You're just someone who's waking up to who you really are. You were never meant to be stuck in secret shame. You were always meant to rise above it. And that feeling in your heart, that sick, guilty, heavy ache, is actually hope in disguise. It means the door of Tawbah is still wide open. It means Allah is near, watching, waiting, loving. Because the moment you feel bad about a sin, you're already halfway to forgiveness. So don't drown in guilt. Don't run from that discomfort. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that Allah is calling you back, not to punish you, but to clean you, heal you, elevate you. And once your heart gets a taste of that peace, the fake highs of sin will never satisfy you again. 5. You keep meeting people who remind you of what you're running from. You didn't expect to meet them. But somehow, they walk in, and without realizing it, they remind you of someone who once broke your heart. Maybe it's the way they speak. Maybe it's how they ignore your boundaries. Maybe it's how they smile when they need you, but disappear when you need them. And your heart goes still. Not out of love, but out of fear. Not because it feels right, but because it feels familiar. You thought you healed. But suddenly, all your old wounds start whispering again. The doubts, the fears, the voice that says, "Don't trust anyone." You ask Allah why He keeps sending these people into your life. But maybe the better question is, what have you still not learned from the last time? Because healing isn't proven in silence. It's tested in repetition. And repetition is Allah's way of saying, "You didn't walk away from this lesson, so I brought it back." Maybe you're too nice when you should walk away. Maybe you stay silent when your soul is screaming. Maybe you're still trying to be enough for people who were never meant to stay. And maybe, just maybe, you still don't believe you're worthy of a love that doesn't hurt. But here's the secret most people never hear. The tests don't repeat to punish you. They repeat to strengthen you, to teach you that you're allowed to choose differently, to remind you that every no you give someone else is a yes to your own peace. Allah doesn't just want to protect your heart. He wants to elevate it. That's why He sends reminders in the form of familiar faces. That's why He lets people come close, only for you to realize, this isn't what I want anymore. Each time you walk away from what no longer aligns with your faith, you're not just passing a test. You're proving to yourself that you've grown. The same kind of person shows up, but this time, you respond differently. This time, you recognize the red flags faster. This time, you don't beg to be seen. You know your worth. And when that happens, when you finally stop chasing what once broke you, something incredible begins to unfold. Allah replaces what's harmful with what's healing. He sends someone who doesn't feel like a test, but like a dua you almost forgot you made. Someone who listens instead of controls, who respects instead of uses, who brings you closer to Allah instead of pulling you away. But you'll never meet them if you keep running from reflection. So maybe this lesson, this pattern, this repetition is not to hurt you, but to free you. Free you from people. Free you from your past. Free you from the lies you once believed about love, pain, and self-worth. You're not broken. You're in training, and the test keeps coming until you finally realize you've outgrown the cycle. 6. You randomly cry in sujood without knowing why. You didn't plan to cry. It was supposed to be just another prayer, like the 100 before it. You walked to the prayer mat with a tired body and a distracted mind, not expecting much, just trying to tick the box, just doing your duty. But somewhere between the first takbir and the final sujood, something shifted, and when your head touched the ground, you didn't just feel the floor. You felt everything you had buried, the pain you never told anyone, the guilt you kept pretending wasn't real, the confusion you masked with fake smiles. It all came rushing to the surface, not through words, but through tears, and you didn't even understand why. There was no tragedy that day, no heartbreak, no disaster, just this deep, raw emotion erupting from a place you had ignored for far too long. It felt like your soul cracked open, like all the things you never gave yourself permission to feel finally found a way out, quietly, gently, beautifully, in front of Allah. You see, when we cry in front of people, it's for comfort. But when we cry in front of Allah, it's for release. It's for freedom. That sujood becomes a sacred place of surrender, where you don't need eloquence. You don't need fancy du'as or well-structured words. You just need to break. And Allah, in His mercy, understands every tear without you having to explain even one. Because He knew all along. He saw every silent battle you fought in your head, every fake laugh you used to hide the ache, every night you stared at the ceiling wondering if you're enough, every time you doubted if your life has purpose. He knew, and still, He waited. He waited for that one sujood dash, where your heart would finally stop pretending and simply fall apart, so He could start putting it back together. And here's the miracle most people miss. When you cry in sujood, you're not just letting go of pain. You're making room for light. That tear, it's not weakness. It's a seed, planted in the most sacred soil, the floor of sujood, where Allah grows something you can't even imagine yet. You may rise from the prayer mat with a red face, a shaky breath, and blurry eyes. But your soul? It rises lighter, stronger, closer to the one who has never stopped loving you, even in your lowest, messiest, most unworthy moments. So don't run from those unexpected tears. Welcome them, because sometimes the tears you cry in sujud are the answer to a dua you didn't even know how to make. And if tonight you weep again, don't apologize, don't hold back. Just whisper from your heart, Ya Allah, I'm yours. That's all he's been waiting to hear, and that's all he ever needed. 7. Everything around you is falling apart, but you still haven't fallen. Your plans are collapsing. The people you trusted are disappearing. The comfort you once found in your daily life is now gone. You wake up, and it feels like the world has turned its back on you. Your routine is broken. Your peace is stolen. Your future feels blurry. And yet, you're still standing, not because you have the strength, but because Allah never left your side. See, when everything around you starts to fall apart, it's not always a sign of failure. It might just be a sign of transformation. Sometimes Allah breaks the walls of your life down, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you with stronger foundations. Because if He doesn't shake you, you'll stay comfortable in places that are slowly draining your soul. You'll keep accepting almost love, living with barely enough peace, and settling for a life far smaller than the one you were meant for. So when everything starts crashing, don't panic. Look deeper. Maybe the friendships you lost were shielding you from people who were secretly delaying your growth. Maybe the doors that shut in your face were never meant to lead anywhere meaningful. Maybe the heartbreak wasn't a punishment. It was the only way to open your heart to a love that's actually real. And maybe, just maybe, Allah is stripping away everything that distracts you, so He can finally give you everything you deserve. Because sometimes the greatest blessing isn't when Allah gives, it's when He takes the fake peace, takes the wrong people, takes the shaky success, takes the noise, so you can finally hear Him again. So if your life feels like a mess right now, remember this: a storm is loudest right before the sky clears, and destruction often comes before divine elevation. You haven't fallen. You've been caught by the only one who never drops what He holds. And from that place, where it feels like nothing is left, that's exactly where Allah begins to rebuild your life into something greater than you ever imagined. Hold on. What's coming isn't the end. It's the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. If any of this reached you, don't just feel it, respond to it. These are not just moments. These are divine messages. Say, I hear you, Ya Allah, in the comments, if even one of these signs touched your heart. And share this with someone who's been feeling lost. Because sometimes a sign is not what we see. It's what we feel deep inside. May Allah never stop sending you signs, and may you never stop seeing them.